right, well, good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Well, welcome to Pirate Nation. My name is Lauren Howard. I serve as the Associate Director here in the Center for Leadership and Civic Engagement. You are, of course, blessed to be here on a Friday, for our office is right upstairs. And so we are grateful to have you here. Today we're going to be talking to you about building strong volunteer programs, recruitment, cultivation, and management, and I'll let my colleague Alex introduce himself.
Hey everybody, my name is Alex Dennis. I serve as Senior Assistant Director in the Center for Leadership and Civic Engagement. We're happy to have you on campus today. Wonderful to see some familiar faces too for organizations that we've partnered with to bring students out and volunteer, and we'll talk about some of that as well, some potential partnerships, but really want to focus on, as Lauren said, really helping you think about cultivating and recruiting volunteers and managing them, and hopefully so that they can meet the mission and goals of your organization.
So to just give you some background on to why we were asked from the College of Business to present to you this morning, we're going to talk a little bit about volunteer recruitment strategies, how to build long-term engagement, specifically coming from the lens of our ECU students, but also your volunteer base as well. And then best practices in volunteer management. And as you may know, because we may have some Pirate alum in the building, service is the core value of ECU. And so it's really instilled in our faculty, staff, and students the importance of service. And what that is serere, which is Latin for to serve. So our office is really in a great spot, literally here in the Student Center, as well as at the institution, because it's instilled in our students. So we rely on community partners and agencies like yourself to really connect with our office or the College of Business, because we have different stakeholders here at ECU that want to volunteer. And so today's presentation is really hitting on all those three things. And it's also important to acknowledge we don't have the best, algorithm for volunteers. It's just we've worked with them in the past, specifically from that student lens, and so can provide some insight as well as tips. But if you have insight and tips, this is kind of like a conversation, so feel free to add to the conversation. We're happy to take that away. So since we have a small but mighty group, we will do background and introduction. So to go around and say your name, the organization you're representing today, as well as your role in that organization, the biggest challenge and or reward working with volunteers, and then just for Alex and I, what do you hope to get out of today's presentation? So I'll get you to think about that. I'll introduce myself again and answer some of these questions for you, and Alex can do the same. So as I said, my name is Lauren Howard. I serve as an Associate Director in Student Engagement, and I lead the Center for Leadership and Civic Engagement. I've been here at the institution since 2016, so about 8 or 9 years. The biggest challenge and reward working with volunteers, I was in actually a presentation beforehand, and really organizing volunteers is like herding cats sometimes, especially college students. Their commitment, we have found over the years, can ebb and flow, as I'm sure you have seen. They can be committed and then that day before cancel or just not show up. But on the flip side, the reward is really seeing the students really truly engage, and then having those conversations or seeing them years later still be engaged with that work, or still go into the field that Alex and I are in and facilitate those kind of discussions with either K through 12 or college students. And then what do I hope to gain out of today's presentation? It's really, I think Alex and I come from a perspective of we really want to engage in conversation as well as connection with new partners, because our students want to see that, right? We have a list of go-to partners that we can rely on for our different events that we have, but we're looking for new partners, and so that's why we also are excited to be here today.
Thanks, Lauren. So again, my name is Alex Dennis, serve as Senior Assistant Director in the Center. actually celebrated Sunday. It was 10 years at ECU, 7 or 8 working in the Center for Leadership and Civic Engagement. I was a high school U.S. history teacher for 5 years before that in past life. I think as Lauren, mentioned, our biggest challenge really is kind of that commitment and follow through. I think, it's not just our age of students, volunteers that you deal with that with. If you're working with nonprofits, working with volunteers can sometimes be a struggle sometimes, the idea of, follow through and commitment and showing up and all of that. But our biggest reward definitely is when I take students out to do volunteer work. We do a lot with a lot of nonprofits in Eastern North Carolina. We'll talk about some of our programs that we partner with. We work with Pamlico Rose in Washington, North Carolina, which does a lot working with, female veteran population specifically. And so I've taken groups of students out there for years now for a different program that we have called Mystery Service Saturdays. And so we've seen kind of the progress of that nonprofit over the years when I take different groups out. And then seeing the students be able to work with their hands and do something that they can see an impact in. A few hours of volunteering is really cool because so much of what our students do is on electronically, and so actually doing something with your hands and having those neurotransmitters that get released that make you feel good and that you made an impact and you work together with other students is a really cool part of my job, being able to be a part of that for them. So I really want to reconnect with some new community partners and be able to really hopefully broaden out our base of support for nonprofits in our region. So thanks for being here today. Who wants to start us out with sharing the names?
We'd like to share. My name is Annie Chief Officer. I am, as of January 31st, retired from the school system, so I was an educator.
Congrats.
And we are working on a nonprofit that has a bit of a foundation, but we're still growing. It's Impact Leadership and Educational Center, and we're just trying to serve our underserved youth in the community and give them other opportunities to have access to things that they need, support holistically for the child and the family. I'm a founding board member in our organization, doing a little bit of everything right now. And so the biggest challenge, I guess, I foresee, because we don't have volunteers, although we are working on the Summers program and we need them, is like you say, making sure we have things in place that are necessary with volunteers working with young children that for safety reasons. So that is a challenge for me to learn those necessary things, as well as making sure we have their hands and feet in the building, because when we have kids, they don't wait. And then obviously reward. We had a few volunteers last summer and the kids just light up, and we have ages 8 to 14. And so when they have someone closer to their age that comes in and engages with them in meaningful ways, it definitely makes them light up and enjoy the experience they're having. What I hope to get from today are some connections and hear what's going on, and also learn how do we connect with some volunteers and get some volunteers engaged with us.
First, my name is Mabel Hall, and I'm founder of Embracing Youth, Inc. I'm new, so our mission is that children around the world can go to a place other than school or home to express themselves through writing, arts, and music. We launched it December last year, and so our biggest challenges was the volunteers, because a lot of people were excited when I first started talking about it. It was like, we're gonna help, we coming out. And I'm telling you, so many people didn't show, and I had so many people like, on the program, they help out, and then they called me the last minute. How can I get there? And so anyway, I had to keep it flowing, because I'm like, we're gonna put this on for the children, so it is what it is at this point. And words. Okay, and then so the people that did show up, everything just ran smooth. And I found out that some parents brought their children, and they just jump right in and help. So I'm like, when we do have events, hopefully it will be like that too. You just never know, what a day gonna bring when you do it. And today, what I want to get out of this is probably connect with, more people and volunteers, and just try to get a feel on the world of the nonprofit, being the fact that I'm new.
So my name is I work with the Association do get a lot of interest of volunteers for our events. One of them is a tutoring program that we have at Welcome Middle School. We did receive, like, I would say 40 to 50 applicants that are interested in this. One of the biggest challenges with that one is it is kind of inconsistent due to the school schedule. So sometimes they have tutoring Tuesdays and Thursdays, but then there's a week they don't have tutoring because the school doesn't have transportation for the kids. So we've been dealing a lot with that. With some weeks, maybe it's once a week or no weeks, no tutoring that week. But as a reward, majority of our volunteers are Hispanic, and they want to get more involved with their community so they get to see what we do for the Hispanic community during these cultural events. And then what I did out of today, I just want to learn more on managing volunteers. That's something I do struggle with because sometimes it is overwhelming, but also meet other community partners that want to work with volunteers. And this is my coworker, Bianca.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Bianca Perez. I'm the director of community professionals at Mexican. So Mexican has a pluralist culture. Basically, me and Jenny, we're like our best friends at work. With her help, I manage our events and personal cultural aspect to keep that custom traditions out of the team. And what I expect from this presentation today is definitely we do get the volunteers, like she said, and we do that as those big numbers, but have the consistency that we need their kids along with their help to have our program as well. Okay, I can go next. My name is Sierra Stickney. I'm the Stormwater Education Coordinator at Sound Rivers, also a Village Coordinator. My biggest challenge is, so we cover 23% of all North Carolina, and we work in 2 different watersheds. Our focus is water quality, so we work in the East watershed and the Tarpon. And some locations we can get a lot of volunteers and a lot of excitement. In other locations we can't get a lot of volunteers. So, and we have a program called Litter-Free Rivers, where we have trash traps that collect trash on our waterways. We'll have volunteers come out and clean out the garbage and those trash traps. And it's a lot of fun, and it's really great to see the community together. And like you were saying, it's a great hands-on activity. You can visually see the animals make it after an hour or 2. So what I want to get out of today is just focusing on getting improvement for areas where we don't have a lot of volunteers.
Hi, my name is Adrienne O'Farrell. I am the Community Outreach and Marketing Specialist for Quantity and Community Solutions. Our challenge currently, our biggest challenge currently is growing our number of volunteers and, like everyone's saying, making sure they're consistent with being volunteers. We had a moment back in December. We've been around since 2014. We had a situation where we were doing a Toys for Tots event, and we were outreaching for volunteer members. When I heard a lot of volunteers signed up from word of mouth, I had no excitement about it. But the many volunteers that said, "Oh, I'm coming, I'm going to help sorting the toys and everything," because it was a lot. About 20 showed up out of the 50, 60 that said they were going to come. So that was, but we probably expected more because they were, the ones that did show were the typical consistent volunteers, but of course things come up, you can't control that kind of stuff. But the reward I've seen with the volunteers is the growth from the volunteers and the people that we're serving. Because we have education, we have economic empowerment and housing, so seeing the people, connect, because you might have a community member who might know the volunteer or might say, "Oh, that's my cousin," things like that, because that happens, especially in Eastern North Carolina, what I've seen, but seeing the growth from both parties really helps. What I hope to gain from this is a better idea of how to organize and manage the volunteer aspect, especially since I'm doing community outreach. And learn more from my own personal nonprofit, because I'm transitioning from DC to North Carolina.
I'm the last one. My name is Michael Williams. I'm from Carolina Rebuilding Ministry, and I'm the Chief Operations Officer there. The biggest challenge working with volunteers is we are repairing homes in Eastern North Carolina. We currently serve 3, check that. We just got a 4th county. We serve Bertie, Chowan, and Washington currently, and just moved into Hertford County. So we are growing, which is a blessing. And you know, I just had a group from Grand Valley State University for this past week that came in, and what a joy it was to work with those guys. The smiles and faces, that's one of the biggest rewards in working with these groups. And working with our clients is that you see the homes in ill repair when we get there, and when we're done, how happy they are to have their homes back and functional, and safe. That's the biggest reward in the role that we have. The biggest challenge is getting volunteers. We get groups mostly from Pennsylvania, Canada, New Jersey, and the Midwest, Michigan, Minnesota. Those are where most of our volunteers come from, and we're right here in Eastern North Carolina, where I rarely get anybody from the state of North Carolina as a volunteer. I've got one church right now currently that comes from Asketville, North Carolina, and we're located in Windsor, so it is a local group. And I'd really like to get out of today's presentation what we can do to reach more here in the state, and then as well as throughout the country to be able to get people in Eastern North Carolina working on these homes. So that's what I'm hoping to get today.
I'm Shannon with Pamlico Rose, and I'm the community outreach. I'm everything. That's just my official thing. Our biggest challenge, besides like he was saying, they've been our #1 volunteer. We really rely on y'all's efforts. I think our problem is we're for women veterans, and so people think, well, I'm not a woman veteran, so I can't like go there. But that's the opposite. We serve women veterans, but we need the community. The community is one of our pillars. Our reward, as you know, you've seen it, and to see people see what shape we're in, which we're much better now. We started off, you should see the pictures. But so that's a good reward, and also the reward is people who keep coming back to help us are actually helping themselves when they're there, because it's such a great space. And what I want to get out, just like everybody, is how do you get the volunteers to come more than once and like spread the word maybe about it and feel welcome being here.
Welcome all. We will try to answer all of those questions throughout today. But you'll also have our contact information at the end. So if anything sparks your interest, Alex will be going over some of our programs. Feel free to follow up. We also have your whole list, so we'll also follow up with things that we'll talk about today. So a little bit of background on what the Center for Leadership and Civic Engagement is all about. We support the mission and vision as well as values of the Division of Student Affairs. So how I explain the Division of Student Affairs for folks is everything outside of the classroom. So if you think about campus rec or student health services or where they're living in the residential halls, that's the division that we are placed in, as well as right here in the Student Center. So we're in Suite 208, which is right upstairs, and we're open Monday through Friday, as well as have some of our events that Alex will talk about on Saturday. So that is really the core of what our office does is service, so that's why we're so excited to be here with you today.
So a little bit about some of the programs that we offer. I think that top picture is at Pamlico Rose, actually. And then we've got a middle photo from our Mystery Service Saturday series. That was when we were working with Habitat for Humanity of Wayne County, I believe. And then a photo here of some of our nonpartisan voter engagement initiatives that we do. So our office really does, service is kind of the core mission, tied to leadership development with that service leadership kind of model, servant leadership, and then connecting it with nonpartisan civic engagement initiatives for students. And so we offer an alternative break experience. That's probably what you were mentioning, other schools and universities coming down for an alternative break experience. We offer those through our center as well. We're going to be working with the Coastal Federation of North Carolina next week, which is kind of one of our long-standing partnerships for our alternative break experiences, but we do some during fall break as well, and then we offer some global ones over the summer, which has service as part of that too. Our office is known for supporting and being the host for the Williams-Ross Purple Pantry, and so a lot of kind of what I'm going to talk about in a little bit as far as managing volunteers is through that lens. And so we have about 150 trained student volunteers that run our Purple Pantry, and that is a free resource for all ECU enrolled students on campus to be able to shop at with no questions asked. Pirates Give is the broad umbrella of our initiatives through our center that partner with community partners like yourselves for 2 large days of service. And so we do 9/11 day of service in the spring semester, fall semester, and then MLK day of service in the spring semester. And that's where students sign up for a day of service on a Saturday. And we work with a lot of different community partners, typically in the Pitt County area, to get students to be able to sign up for different sites to go out and volunteer. So typically for those, we have a couple hundred students volunteering for the large days, and working with anywhere from 10 to a dozen different community partners in the Greenville area. For Mystery Service Saturdays, the goal for those is to try to get outside of Greenville and try to, within kind of an hour drive of Greenville. So students, we depart out of the bus loop right over here at 8 a.m. We drive for an hour, we go volunteer for 3 hours with that community partner. We then have lunch in that community. I like that aspect of getting money back into that region and that community, and so we try to make sure it's locally owned places too. Our office picks up the tab for the students that go, and then we come back to campus by 2 o'clock. So it's a really easy opportunity for students. It's a small group as opposed to a couple hundred for the large days, which a lot of our students kind of appreciate those kind of small opportunities, and it's been really popular. I stole that idea years ago with permission from NC State, and it has taken off. We've been doing it now for 5 or 6 years probably. Pop-up service opportunities, so we have 5 undergraduate students who work in our center, and they are tasked with offering weekday opportunities. And so they get kind of the experience of building up their leadership skills, communication skills with contacting community partners to arrange pop-up opportunities during the week. And sometimes those happen in our student center. If there's like something that we can assemble, or kits or something like that. We've done meals where we kind of make PB&Js and put together dinner kits that we donated to Community Crossroads here in town, which is a local the homeless shelter. And so, different things, but we also have a van where students can take, the students in our office can take a group of students out to go volunteer here in the community. And again, those are during the week, typically in the afternoons, 2 to 4. We work with some after-school programs and stuff like that too. So these are all opportunities that if you're like, that might be something that I'd like to work with you on, definitely we've got our cards up here afterwards you can come get. And then of course the Pirate Code initiatives that we do, again, all nonpartisan. But some of the dinner and discourse topics over the years, it's a civility program that our students put on, have been around issues that nonprofits are facing too. And so that's been interesting as well. And then we've got 2 leadership development programs that we put on. Leadership is a national program, and our Chancellor Student Leadership Academy. And so we also encourage students in those programs to make sure they're getting involved with service. Again, that kind of servant leadership model for ECU for sure. So volunteer recruitment, this is students at, we always start a day of service at ECU in the Black Box Theater on the 2nd floor with a kickoff event, kind of a keynote speaker. That's another thing if you're interested in serving as a keynote speaker for MLK Day or 9/11 Day of Service, to talk about your own service journey and leadership journey. You can highlight your nonprofit too. We'd love to have you for that as well. But we kind of got it organized here for different themes. But with volunteer recruitment, and again, I'm probably going to look at it through the college student lens, and recruiting for our programs and specifically for Williams-Ross Purple Pantry. But I want you all to chime in as well if you've got ideas and strategies that you utilize. But I think really being intentional about identifying and reaching out to certain volunteer populations, whether that be college students and catering your message to that particular population, whether that be folks who are retired or elder populations who are still active and being able to volunteer, and what does that messaging look like with that, and what is the strategies in place that you can utilize to reach that population. And then understanding the motivations of your volunteers. Is it something like elder population who, you know, they want a purpose, they're retired, they want something to do. Is it college students who need volunteer hours, a certain number of them for requirements for programs? Lauren will talk a little bit about service learning here in a little bit on our campus with faculty who teach service learning classes. So just understanding what are the motivations for your volunteers. A lot of our college students, they don't want to just be, well, I just showed up and volunteer with you. A lot of them want kind of a higher purpose kind of thing. So a lot of our students who work with the Williams Ross Purple Pantry in the building, they go through a volunteer orientation, but then they're offered an opportunity to join our executive leadership team, where it's kind of taking leadership, you know, in service to another level. And they love being able to say, well, I'm a member of the executive leadership team of Purple Pantry. I'm not just a normal general volunteer, right? And so, you know, thinking of ways that you can tier your volunteers to maybe make it more special for them, or something that is, you know, in their eyes a little bit more important, and they can add to their resumes if they're students, you know, or something that can be ongoing for older populations or older folks or working folks. You know, whether you're partnering with companies, a lot of companies, you know, think of ECU, our faculty and staff get volunteer hours that they can utilize. A lot of them don't end up utilizing those volunteer hours that they can take time off of work. We get 24 hours from the state to be able to do that each year. All state employees statewide, right? And so being able to tap in and make sure they know that they can utilize those to work at your organization, I think could be really cool too. Making sure that, you know, the students have a clear task or goal in mind, or your volunteers, sorry, I'm probably going to use students in place of volunteer for a lot of that. But your volunteers, making sure there's a clear task. I've taken students before to nonprofits before, and we showed up, and, you know, I've kind of arranged it ahead of time when we get there, and they act like we're a bother to them somewhat, of like, well, they're trying to find something for us to do, and it's like, you know, this is your opportunity to tap into students that, you know, I'm connecting you with, that hopefully you can encourage to come on their own to continue. And so making sure that, you know, there's a clear task at hand, you're welcoming folks, and providing the context for your organizations. You know, sometimes I always ask folks to do that. You know, if it's a one-time opportunity, you still, I think, should share information about what's the goal of your organization. How do you get funding? You know, who are you helping? You know, those kinds of things. People want to know those things, right? Especially if you want them to continue to come in kind of on their own. And so providing that context could be a volunteer orientation, but even if it's a one-time thing, at least take 10 minutes at the beginning to go over those things to provide that context. And then communication, right? Whether that be social media blasts or shout outs, whether it be, you know, doing an opportunity for, you know, volunteers to encourage them to bring a friend one day when they volunteer, highlighting the impact and the value of what they do. We're going to be sharing a tool that all of you can utilize called GivePulse, which is our service management system here at ECU, but is open to community partners to join in as an affiliate through our office, so that you can post your own opportunities, you can track volunteers through that, you can send out blasts through it, which is really cool. But, you know, it also will put like an economic impact on the dollar value that your volunteers have given to your organization over time, which is great for reporting and grants and all of that stuff. So, you know, I think these are just some, you know, quick, you know, ideas, but, you know, is there anything that you all, when you look at this, you're like, ooh, we do that really well, or something that you're like, that's something we could add? Anybody got anything? It's okay if you don't. All right, cool, we'll keep going. So, I love these kind of all the be proactive, be prepared, be patient, be professional, be positive. These, we actually pulled this from a slide that we use when we talk to students about doing service learning for their faculty in the classes that they're in. And so when they partner with community partners, you know, we tell students to do these things when they're reaching out to community partners. But I think it goes the opposite way too, right? You know, and it goes along with a lot of the things that we just talked about as far as the community partner side of it, making sure that you're being proactive and reaching out ahead of time, making sure that they're feeling comfortable. You know, a lot of, especially young people, if they don't know what to expect, it causes a lot of anxiety. And I think a lot of people are dealing with that these days. So they're like, well, if I don't know what to expect going into it, it's going to cause too much anxiety for me. I'm going to back out that morning, or I'm going to be sick that morning, or I'm going to cancel last minute. You know, and so making sure that you're being really thorough about, you know, what you expect from them, where they need to go, who they can call if there's a question, you know, little things like that go a long way. You know, we encourage our students to be, patient with community partners when they reach out to them. But that goes the other way too, People are busy, they got a lot going on in their lives, and so being able to, as much as you can be cognizant of that is important too. Next one. So volunteer management, again, you might have an orientation for new volunteers. Again, that's going to help with that, anxiety related to what to expect from volunteering. That's when you can, share all the things about providing all the context that we mentioned. This is a group that went out for one of our days of service to Ronald McDonald House here in Greenville. And that can also be where, if you're working with populations where you need to do background checks or signing forms or any of that stuff. And some of that can be virtual too, so maybe you're offering in-person and virtual options for your orientation. We've done both with Purple Pantry, where all of our pantry volunteers have to do some kind of orientation. What do those ongoing opportunities look like? Again, taking it to the next level with an executive leadership team, volunteer leadership team. What does that look like in your org? That could possibly really help. And then following up with your volunteers. What did they really like about volunteering at your site? That could be a short reflection at the end of the volunteer experience. If it's a group, it could be a follow-up survey that you offer for ways that you can improve your processes. And then again, shouting them out on social media, connecting with them on social media, getting them to join or like your page, so they can see those information in the future. And then if, I know that obviously funding is a limitation for a lot of nonprofits, but if you have the ability to, recognize your volunteers, whether that be like a volunteer banquet once a year or little giveaways that, has your graphic on it, that not only is going to make your volunteers feel like that, I got a little something here, right? But also it's marketing for your organization too, if it's something that they're going to be walking around with a water bottle with your logo on the side there too. So kind of two prongs there for sure.
And to go on the social media, I know that we have done Habitat for Humanity in a couple of counties, but Craven County is one in particular that comes to mind. I took a student a couple of fall breaks up there, and we were building really the foundation of the house. Well, that volunteer coordinator sent us emails like a year later to demonstrate the impact, right? The house was built. The person that, of course, it was built for was in there. So it was cool to see the students react to what they built. So it can be small instances that maybe that impact they don't see in that day that they visit with you or that day they serve with you, but maybe it's a follow-up later to demonstrate, hey, this student graduated, or hey, we were able to get that grant based off of what you did a year ago. So while they may not see the impact right then and there, if you're following up with volunteers to showcase that impact, it potentially could get them back in your doors to help you serve your giving communities.
We've even printed like little, certificates for volunteers who had the most hours working with Purple Pantry this year, and then kind of try to recognize them at our little volunteer luncheon that we do, or even if it's just something where we do a little, drop in and get a free t-shirt for volunteering and things like that. Little things like that go a long way, especially with students.
So the next few minutes, what I'm going to do is showcase what our office oversees for the university called Give Pulse. By show of hands, who here is familiar with Give Pulse? Okay, a couple folks. So Give Pulse is a platform that, again, the university purchases, so it's external to the university. And it's really a great platform for all nonprofits to join. Now, when they join with our office, they are put as an affiliate. And so therefore, when we talk with students, and whether they're in a service learning course or they just want to do service, we really gear them towards Give Pulse. So if you and your organization, after leaving today, are interested in joining, please seek us out, because of course you'll need to go through more training than what I'm going to show you today. But they were founded in 2012 to really showcase the impact. So we see students demonstrating the hours of service that they're doing, but they can also showcase if they're fundraising for your organization or if they're doing research. Or another great way for service hours for students, especially in the younger generation, is maybe you need help with social media, right? Maybe you need an intern that you can't necessarily give them money. Well, you can offer an internship and post it through GivePulse. So therefore, they can get those hours for that class or that hours that they may need as well. So while yes, GivePulse is really service oriented, if you need assistance with social media or maybe office work and you are willing to get them hours and or money as well, you can post that on GivePulse as well. So a little bit of background on where we migrated GivePulse. In the summer of 2019, we migrated from a different platform that the university was purchasing to GivePulse. We administer the ECU account, so you'll see if you're interested that ECU is on there. Well, the Center for Leadership and Civic Engagement offers that. And since we got on GivePulse, we have over 4,000 volunteers, logged over 66,000 hours. So this just demonstrates that if you get on GivePulse, if you get your organization on GivePulse, you could also pull those numbers. So it's just a great historical documentation because, as you probably all know, in the nonprofit world, you have turnover, right? And if you have a database or if you have a paper process, sometimes that paper process can get lost. If your new volunteer coordinator is coming in and you're on GivePulse, well, guess what? I can change that over, give you access to it, so therefore you can have this historical document running on a yearly basis.
We talked about the idea of asking for reflection from your volunteers. You can build that into your GivePulse, which is really cool.
So this is also the features, and I'll have just a couple of minutes to show you. But GivePulse is really cool where you'll have the desktop feature, but then you'll also have the ability to have the app as the admin. So therefore, if you're having a day of service, you could really pull up this app and then check people in right then and there. So you're not going back to a paper, you're not having to go back to your desktop to approve these hours, or sometimes, again, our students need those hours approved. And yes, while Alex and I are talking about students, you can also have this platform if you have volunteers that you already have, right? It doesn't need to necessarily be an ECU student. And if not interested in having a page, you don't need to have a page. Students know if they come through our office, they can make an impact, and all they would need is your first, last name, and email. And then you can get that email saying, hey, Lauren Howard served 4 hours with you, and then approve it right then and there. So a lot of the courses that we talk to, those faculty members require that, so it's not necessarily that you would need a page, it's just that it's a great marketing tool for our agencies. And then, as you can see, so in the background is kind of like the impact summary. So as students either serve with you or they get comfortable with your organization, they can download this impact summary and then therefore turn it in for grad school or turn it in for, I know I teach a class in the fall that I require 12 hours of service, right? And how do I show proof, or how do I have my students show proof? Is this impact report that GivePulse will automatically populate for all of our volunteers. So I'll just briefly show you what it looks like. So it's givepulse.com, and you as an external user would create an account, and of course it would look like this once you build it. But when you manage it, and I know that bubble of 2,500 things is very aggressive, but as you can see, I help out a lot of organizations. For the purposes of this showcase, I'll just briefly, again, go over what alternative breaks looks like. So as Alex said, this is what it would look like if you were to, again, get on GivePulse and have an account. And then this is what it would look like from the public site. So as you can see, you know, it's just kind of like Facebook, essentially. You would tell the external folks what your organization was about, the topics that you may hit, as well as contact information. And then as you can see, we've had this site since 2019, and it captures right then and there how many people have served with us, how many impacts have been done, as well as how many hours. And that affiliate is ECU, so again, if you have an ECU account, you can see all the different service opportunities. And then right then and here, folks can sign up, right? And specifically for Alternative Break, it's just for ECU students, but when we market this, students can go to that specific event, click that event, and then register. How we tell students to explore is hitting the Explore tab, and then that's where really all the organizations, nonprofits that have come through our office and posted volunteer opportunities, students are recognizing that they can volunteer with us. So this is a great way that, you know, your organization has scheduled opportunities and you want a free volunteer management system to really market those opportunities and get those volunteers in your organization. This is a great way. And as I mentioned in the beginning, like this is why we are so excited to be at this nonprofit summit, is to get more organizations like yourself on this, so it's not just Beast Philanthropy in our community garden, as well as some of the pantries that we work with locally. Because I will tell you, students will come back from spring break, which is next week, and I know be knocking at me and Alex's email inbox saying, hey, I need service. Like I had to even tell 2 students yesterday in the office, they wanted to clean our office next week. And I'm like, you cannot clean my office next week, but what I can gear you towards is Give Pulse, right? So this just, again, scratches the surface with what Give Pulse is able to do. I just showed you kind of the ABE events. But this is what, you know, if you're interested, you can get your organization on there. So therefore, if students sign up for one event, and then maybe you have offset events, they can get more active in those events and get more engaged with your organization.
Give Pulse is great. You can create recurring events. So if you have something every Tuesday, Thursday from 2 to 4, you can create that. And it's not, you know, we talk a lot about students, but community members can utilize Give Pulse too. Anybody can create an account for Give Pulse and search for stuff. But in order to have a page on there, you have to be an affiliate and go through us. But it is free. And so this is a great opportunity, like Lauren said, to be able to promote stuff, but also so much tracking and messaging that can be done through the platform, which is really fantastic.
Yeah. And as Alex said, like there's one feature I wasn't able to show you, but there's an export feature where when students start doing impacts with your organization, you can export it to an Excel file and it's automatically going to populate all the volunteers that you have, again, regardless if they're an ECU student or not. And then one column is going to show the economic value of what that volunteer, you know, saved your organization based off of the address that you give Pulse. Yeah.
So your students, do they only like do this area like Cape County, or they can travel?
Transportation is sometimes a barrier to our students, but we have found that we have, especially at ECU, a lot of distance ed students. So a lot of students will call our office and be like, I'm in Washington or I'm in Virginia, and still Give Pulse will locate wherever you're at. If you are an organization in Virginia and you post your events, they can sign up that way. So a lot of our community engaged service learning courses, they tell students they can do service wherever. So if they're, you know, going back home to Charlotte, they can, of course, utilize Give Pulse, but of course utilize, you know, back home wherever that is. So it doesn't necessarily need to be in Pitt County or Greenville.
And you know, you can get your, or you know, if you really start working with some churches or something in the area, like show them your Give Pulse place. Say, hey, create your account. This is how you're going to log in, and this is how you're going to sign up for opportunities working with a nonprofit. And then what's cool, Give Pulse does like automated reminders and stuff like that too. So you know, as opposed to like calling and saying, hey, I want to volunteer, it's all electronic, so that makes it so much easier.
I was just gonna ask, like for your industry Saturday people, usually those aren't the same people.
Yeah, it's different.
And so, it's hard to like, just to follow up, stuff like that, like, well, I didn't do that last time, or they couldn't appreciate that. Do you think that could be like a plus too, because it's like a fresh thing, and maybe some people didn't want to come? So like, besides you guys, how we could create that feeling where it's like, hey, we're just gonna have this weekend thing, can you come? Versus just a random, like someone just asking us. That's what we wait for someone to ask us, can it help, versus scheduling an actual.
Yeah, so if you created a page and then you could then push out your Give Pulse page through your Facebook page and say, hey, this is what we're going to be using moving forward, to post our opportunities. And once you kind of start getting people using it, then you kind of got, the built-in follow-up and things like that. Because I post the Mystery Service Saturdays on our Give Pulse page and students sign up for it.
Okay.
And so that's why a lot of times when I'm working with community partners, they may be like, make sure when I show up with the students, they think I know the students. And I'm like, I don't always know the students.
Yeah.
Students are just signing up for these opportunities through our office. And then the mystery element, we tell them where to go, where to show up, but they don't know where they're going.
That's what it really is still a mystery with it.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yeah. Until I'd usually tell them before we start heading there, right, where we're going. But when they get there, they don't know where they're going. It's kind of fun.
And sometimes, Give Pulse can seem very daunting to folks, and I understand. I've been with Give Pulse since 2019, and it changes every year. But I always tell partners, just get on there and try it out. You never can break it. I think I built an event that was very robust, and the support team at Give Pulse knew me by person. They were able to get it back, in a blink of an eye. So just get on there if interested, play around with it, and again, go through our office. So again, even if you aren't interested on Give Pulse, we at least know that you could be a great partner. So therefore, if we do get a student come April that needs hours, we can push them towards y'all. Because that often happens in our office. Of course, again, they are required to have so many hours for a course, and they don't start until when it's due. But of course, we also have students in our office that do those pop-ups, and that's kind of meeting the students as well as the community partners. We recognize that at times students need hours, they need transportation, and sometimes we want to capitalize on maybe those organizations we haven't reached out to. So that's also a great opportunity to get on our list for pop-ups as well as Mystery Service Saturdays. Any other questions? I know we're running a little bit over, so I want to be respectful of that. Yeah?
There's students looking for volunteer opportunities like in the summer, because I know in the summer a lot of them go back home. Majority of them aren't here.
Yeah. Summer is usually hit or miss. I know that there are some courses that they run in the summer that require, and then we'll just get random students too. So summer is always hit or miss. But what I also would encourage y'all to do is, if you have a specific population here at ECU, reach out to the faculty, reach out to the college to introduce yourself. Because while yes, we have community engaged designated courses, we also have faculty here that may be doing research based off your concentration or based off your populations. That could easily tap people as well as faculty and staff that could get on, your volunteer list. So summer is our lower time, I would say.
But a lot of students are looking for internships during the summer, so maybe you pivot from more volunteer during the school year to offering some select internships over the summer for students who are have to do one for their program area or degree requirements. So I think that's a good way to think about it too, because a lot of them have the time to be able to do it like that over the summertime.
What's the best way to know the criteria for these internships?
So I think a lot of the internships are sponsored or at least marketed out through career services on campus, and so reaching out to ECU Career Services would be a good one to think about, what that looks like. And I think they have a portal to post those kinds of internships. But you could still post it, if you have the Give Pulse, you could post it through there too.
Yeah. I know that because we have a Bachelor of Social Work intern in our office, And I know that the social work program is always looking for interns, especially because that is a requirement for a lot of their seniors. So if interested in getting that contact information for social work, her name is LaTanya Gaskins. And I can of course get you it, so if you email me if you're interested in that process, I can get you that contact information.
Public health majors have to do
Public health, yeah.
a pretty rigorous internship, so definitely definitely pockets of campus that are needing places to send students. Hopefully this was helpful.
Yeah.
If you're interested in the Give Pulse, you can email any of us. Specifically, if you want to partner for any of the programs that I'll talk about, Mystery Service Saturdays, Days of Service, definitely reach out to me directly.
Yeah. And we'll be around at lunch. We'll stay a little bit afterwards as well. So if you want to see our office or anything like that,
see the
we're happy
pantry,
to take you around.
We
But
got our
if not-
business cards too.
Yeah.
If you want an actual paper business card, we got those.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you all for attending.